So Saudi Arabia is saying they're outraged at Obama's peace overtures with Syria and Iran. Most of you are aware that Saudi Arabia, along with Qatar, were big financial backers of the rebel opposition slash terrorist mercenary force in Syria. Now it's interesting what they say here in Zero Hedge, because they kind of have a different take on the whole matter. It says here, a month later, in a clear confirmation that this was precisely the case, they're talking about Qatar and Saudi Arabia basically having their own agenda to launch a regional war in that region for energy and other related issues. It says that the confirmation, the Wall Street Journal reported that the recent overtures by Obama, brilliantly checkmated by Putin, they use that word checkmated, to push for a peaceful resolution with not only Syria but suddenly Iran as well, has managed to infuriate Saudi Arabia. And of course, they're traditionally one of the U.S. closest allies in the region. Me personally, I have a different take, which is, I've covered this before I went on that week break, which is Saudi Arabia, what could be one of those countries along with Turkey that gets destabilized by the West and East power trading blocs, which is basically Russia, China, and North America, Europe. As most of you are aware, Saudi Arabia, it's been kind of, for the most part, proven that they don't hold the reserves that they're claiming, so they have no real power anymore. So what better than to claim energy interests in Syria by running all these energy, natural gas pipelines and that. So the Saudis fear that Syria's Assad will use the time afforded by the U.S. and UN-backed diplomacy on Syria to impose more killing and to torture its people. Me personally, what do I think? I think that it's to buy time, possibly, for the elections next year that are supposed to take place. I've been saying it before that they don't want those elections to take place in 2014. So we're trying to smash through all the information, even in the alternative media here. I have a lot of news to get to today. I know I'm definitely going to have 2-3 videos, but I may even have like 4 or 5. But we're going to try to pick apart what's been going on in the world, because there is a lot of stuff that's heating up. And just like when I left, because I was basically burnt out from exhaustion of covering all this, it hasn't really slowed down. It's just escalated and got more intense on all fronts. So, but you have to be able to read between the lines to see what's kind of going on. I don't have the full picture. Maybe this was a good thing for Syria to hold off the elections. I think it was the East and West tricking Syria into getting checkmated. That's basically what I thought, because it was an admission of guilt, and I want to keep stressing that point. So I did find it kind of ironic that they used that word. Actually, Putin's been up for, I heard that he's up for a Nobel Peace Prize now, so. And also it says here that it gave him an opportunity, this diplomacy, supposed diplomacy, gave Assad an opportunity to surrender his chemical weapons, heading off a U.S. military strike against the Assad regime. Again, a lot of stuff in the media, maybe some warships, but really they weren't going to attack. You know, I felt like they weren't going to attack. I covered it, but still, I was listening to some of the news that was coming out by the generals, and they were saying that we don't have the capabilities, whether it's troops, to muster up that many troops to do this, and also the big red herring in the room. To me, I saw afterwards this whole thing was dying down, which was, how the heck are you going to go and bomb a country with all these chemical weapons? Arsenals. They're known to have huge arsenals. How are you going to just go and just carry out airstrikes right away when there's all these people in the region? It would just be a toxic waste. So you can't really go in and claim humanitarian intervention by doing that. So that airstrike was never going to take place. That's why I said I think it was a checkmate against Syria. There's also this alternative. Was Obama planning Syria strike or working to gain traction in talks with Iran? Well, we can wipe out that first one. As far as gaining tractions in talks with Iran, that could be, that could be it, basically. But here's the kicker, right? Russia had to have known that they weren't going to attack. The U.S. wasn't going to attack for the same reason that I said, right? About all the chemical weapons, what it would do to the area as far as the toxic impact and environmental impact. So they knew that they weren't going to do that, but they kind of played the good cop and tricked them into handing over one of their main defenses to defend their sovereignty. Same with Iran. they keep talking about how making these claims that they don't have weapons. Well, why do that, right? Why make all these claims that you're not enriching uranium and all that stuff? Yeah, it'll give them reason, but they're going to use that against Iran. So when the time comes when they find out that they are able to have, nuclear capabilities, which I think they should have, just like Syria should have their abilities to have whatever weapons, they're going to have nothing to stand on, no ground to stand on. So a lot of this was an aim at bringing down Iran. One of the things we should be looking for in the near future is, again, Al-Qaeda, right? The same type scenario in Syria, in Iran. Al-Qaeda in Iran, or uprisings, right? Political uprisings for democratic change type shit. Okay, I laid the ground here for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to move fast here. Russia's Jewish community unimpressed with Rouhani's Holocaust acknowledgement. A senior member of the Russian Jewish community said the acknowledgement of the Holocaust by the Iranian President Rouhani was neither new nor enough to change attitudes towards the Iranian regime. So it doesn't really matter, because what? Iran has one of the largest Jewish populations in the world, so that's just a bunch of crap, right? Iran nuclear deal could be reached sooner than 3 or 6 months. So this is what I'm talking about, right? This is John Kerry, who's trying to he was spearheading the limited strikes on Syria that was never going to take place, and now they're playing this card that I was telling you about. See. They could be reached in months that if the Islamic Republic proves its nuclear program was not being used to build atomic weapons, right? So this is the same hypocrisy that goes on with Israel, carrying out human rights violations, holding nuclear weapons, not having to declare it. What you have going on in Bahrain with protesters, human rights violations. Saudi Arabia was basically saying, "Oh, this is an opportunity for them to butcher more of their people in Syria," the diplomacy thing. But who the hell are they, right? But they're one of the biggest allies of the West. So kind of stating the obvious there, but I thought I'd throw it out there. UN Security Council unanimously votes to secure and destroy Syria's chemical weapons stockpile. So where the hell was the United Nations when all these chemical attacks were occurring before? They didn't want to go in Syria and look at it, because it was actually the terrorists and Al-Qaeda and the people that John Kerry and Obama have been supporting. So they didn't check that out. They didn't care that their own workers, UN workers, were being killed by the terrorists backed by the United States. The only thing that they care about is this recent attack, which I believe never even took place. So you'll hear this from a lot of people, especially in the truther movement. And libertarians and conservatives. Oh, the UN. Well, they have no legitimate, or not that they don't have legitimacy, but they're a joke. They always use that phrase, "Oh, the UN, they're a joke." They have no power. So they're kind of begging them to have some kind of power. Oh, you got a big army. Okay, you're legitimate now. You can, you're a big bully now. Okay, like the U.S. military empire. Oh, okay, you're legitimate. Well, they're not legitimate, regardless. So somehow they overlook all these things, but now all of a sudden they're jumping on this bandwagon, which makes me think that this whole thing really was set up to screw Syria and the Syrian people. UN chemical experts leave Syria at end of mission, and disarmament team lands in Lebanon. So supposedly the disarmament team has landed. Now, of course, it's going to take about a year, at least a year to a year and a half, to safely remove these chemical weapons, if that's what they're really going to do. But you'll see the same Skull and Bones member, John Kerry, saying that Assad isn't getting rid of these weapons in time. They're already saying that they should have been removed already. So again, these are just like the airstrikes, limited strikes. It's not going to happen in the timelines that they're giving them. So they're giving them unrealistic timelines. But then you have this weird thing happening with Syria and the Syrian leadership, which is, I think that they haven't got the memo yet. It hasn't sunk in and hit them that they were checkmated by both Russia and the United States. Because they're still making these statements and threats that they're not going to be able to back up. A Middle East free of weapons of mass destruction is impossible without Israel, says Syria. So they're calling on the international community to work on basically getting rid of these weapons of mass destruction. But the international community, whether it's Luciferians or like John Kerry, crypto Jews, it's run by some very, very radical people. Yeah, here you go. Assad stresses, I won't leave my country in the middle of the storm. Syrian information minister, Assad will remain in power. Saying it's the Syrians' choice, i.e. the elections next year. Well, we'll see, right? They could just be balkanized. Neutered, I guess you can say, right? They'll just give them their own little area. And they'll give Kurdistan their own little Kurdistan region. And they'll give whatever, the Al-Qaeda or Sunnis in that northern region country. If they do try to assassinate Assad or try to remove him, they may offer him this, right? They probably did it to Saddam Hussein. They did it to Gaddafi. Secret MI6 plot to help Gaddafi escape Libya revealed, which makes you think that you can trust these people, right? Not these people, Gaddafi and Assad, but the West and these offers. You can't trust them. And they'll probably do that to Assad. They probably already have. How the Syrian war is stoking sectarian tensions in Turkey. The members of the sect that Assad belongs to thinks rebels and their Sunni allies are nothing but trouble. But that's the purpose, right? Like I said, destabilizing the area, weakening Iran, also weakening Turkey. It says here that this is basically Al-Qaeda threatens Erdogan of Turkey with suicide bombings. I saw this kind of interesting because I was just talking to somebody about certain areas that you will see heat up. Turkey, Yemen, South America, especially Africa. And I said that before this article, and then lo and behold, September 30th, Al-Qaeda is going to carry out, saying they're going to carry out suicide bombings in Turkey. Despite security concerns in the region, basically Turkey, what is this, a sports thing, a sports team or something? They're still going to travel to Turkey for preseason games. Then you have this, what's going on here? Erdogan of Turkey, he's going to boost the Kurds' rights and lift the ban on hijab in public departments. So this is maybe he knows something that they're coming for him to destabilize the country. I'm not saying Erdogan's a good guy; he's a piece of crap. But Turkey police accused of human rights violations. Ooh, see, human rights violations. Then all of a sudden Al-Qaeda shows up wherever they want to attack. Human rights and Al-Qaeda show up in the countries they want to destabilize and overthrow. That's what you have to remember. Either way, Turkey's pro-Kurdish party has rejected the government reform, so it's not enough. But, and again, they deserve probably their own place, their own country, and they may actually get it if they do balkanize Syria here. U.S. sanctioned Chinese firm wins a Turkey missile defense system. So we're talking about slaps in the face, right? And loyalty and alliances. Gulf states look eastward as U.S. influence wanes, says expert. Recent public disagreements between the U.S. and Gulf states may push the region to look eastward for strategic partners with people like, of course, China. So you can take this article for whatever it's worth. Despite Syria, U.S. will continue to use military abroad. So they're going to keep using military in the Pacific for, like I said, territorial skirmishes, basically between the trading blocs, East and the West. So even alternative in media, they're buying this as some kind of real legitimate diplomacy. So the sudden breakout of diplomacy in Syria has left a lot of warmongers disoriented. He says that and insists that the military has not been sidelined. Then we have Marine Corps assigning elite units to Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. The missions will culminate once the Afghan mission has ended. Really, I should say the Syrian mission has ended, because the Afghan mission is going to keep going. Which is constant chaos, further destabilization, which you see in Libya, which you see in Iraq, which you see in now Egypt and Syria. So they're saying here that it's not so much ground troops and land wars, sea power is back in vogue in response to the rise of China and Western reluctance to deploy ground troops in conflicts like Syria, which we did see a bunch of warships present. Winding down, right? The war's winding down. Pentagon chief seeks deal to keep 10,000 troops in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, $37 million aviation facilities being used or may have been used to store opium. And we know that they've seen Marines guarding opium fields and that. Also know they helped create Al-Qaeda, helped basically create the Taliban. Afghan government slams the United States for sending arms to Taliban because it creates a need for them to be there. You have to remember too about this whole diplomacy crap with Syria and that is that it basically gives the illusion that there's that the people's decisions were heard, right? They were sick of war, right? Americans were sick of war. And so they went out there, hands off Syria, right? And they called off the airstrike, and there's diplomacy. So, it's really just a bunch of garbage. Everything that was supposed to happen, happened. We'll return with this article on Africa news. Keep moving here. Thank you.